This surveillance video is the best evidence we have in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, mom of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie. Many of us are just thankful that this video exists for sure and that it might help solve a crime. But the video also raises legality and privacy concerns since it was reportedly being kept on a, quote, back-end server. The company found this video even though Nancy Guthrie doesn't even pay for a subscription through that doorbell camera. So we brought in our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, to take a closer look at the issue this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Sure, good to be here.
All right, so give us an overview. What is the law when it comes to these doorbell cameras and keeping this data?
Yeah, there's a lot of laws, and it's really state to state, and a lot of these laws deal with privacy, and really privacy in terms of where the camera is actually pointed, so regarding your neighbor and things like that. So the key term to think about is reasonable expectation of privacy. So if you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, you can't have cameras in that area, so bedrooms, bathrooms,
right,
things like that. So, and even to some extent in people's backyards, if they have shrubs and high fences, if you have it pointed in their backyard, that could actually be a privacy violation. So that's the big issue. With regard to audio recording in Colorado, we're a one-party consent state. So that means you can record the conversation that you're a part of, even if the other person doesn't know. So that's completely legal, but some of the doorbell cameras avoid issues by only doing live audio recording. So when somebody comes by, then it starts to pick up then. With rental properties, tenants can generally use doorbell cameras, but they should definitely check the lease agreement. And basically the best practice to avoid these privacy issues, a lot of experts are saying, is to have signage up saying, hey, there's a camera in use here.
What about like when companies can share footage with police? I mean, there was this conversation about like she had this camera, whoever this was took the camera off. She didn't have a subscription. They were saying they couldn't find it. Well, then they found this. And so at what point can you share that with police?
Right. So that's an interesting issue that I didn't even realize, that even if you don't have a subscription, the company, a lot of times it will be on their back end server and they can actually give that footage to law enforcement if they want. So there's a number of different reasons why the police or law enforcement can obtain it. So if they have a warrant or a lawful order, they can obviously get it then. Without a warrant, in life-threatening situations, in life-threatening emergencies, they can actually access it as well. And then of course, a lot of companies, Ring, for example, has agreements with law enforcement, and I think they have over 2,500 partnerships with law enforcement in which they share that information. Now, when you sign up, you can actually opt out of that sharing, but even if you keep yours on a local, it's not on their server, sometimes it can still be accessed. They can still get access to it through the company, which I didn't think was possible.
Can this be used in court?
Yes, so this is a very unique issue, and I've actually had this fight before trial where we had a hearing with the judge to determine if certain video or audio was admissible. And so it really is, it's somewhat nuanced, but essentially it can be used if it's unedited, clear, reliable, those type of things. But every judge may be a little bit different in terms of, because they don't want, particularly with audio, they want it to be reliable evidence. So, so yeah, if it's unedited and clear, they can use it.
We always talk about reading the fine print, you know, and a lot of people just don't read that fine print because it's like pages and pages long. But what if viewers do want more control over their video? What can they do? Can they do anything?
That's a great point. And the one thing is to read the fine print, because if your company actually has an agreement with law enforcement, you can opt out. And there's also these neighborhood requests, sort of these blanket neighborhood request situations where they can just essentially say, hey, this block, we want your Ring footage. And if you've opted in, then they get it automatically. So you can definitely opt out of that. The other thing they suggest is only storing it locally, not having it on the server. And they said you could also do end-to-end encryption, which seems like a lot of effort. But even with all these efforts, I was surprised to find out that you can still get access in certain circumstances. So, so the issue of privacy, I mean, they do talk about this reasonable expectation of privacy with respect to where the cameras are pointed,
Right.
but in terms of who can access it, that's still a very nuanced issue.
Just to be clear, we are so happy that they have this video, of course, because
Yes.
Nancy Guthrie is still missing.
Yes.
But it did, raise a lot of questions about the legality on how long they can keep it, who can see it, and all that. So we're glad that you came in and answered our questions,
Yeah.
Whitney. Thank you.